Now with that, I'm going to ask Betty Foy to unmute herself, and she is going to make a presentation on meditation for this morning. Thank you, Betty.
You're welcome. Hello, everybody. I look at all your faces and I think here we are in our new normal, sitting at our computer on Thursday morning, looking at squares of lovely ladies who are, it's almost like a old-fashioned patchwork quilt, but instead it's all of you looking at me. That's really wonderful. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about friendships and what they mean to me. You know that good friends, we don't just meet good friends, we recognize them. So they're the ones that have the same passion that you do, the same interest, the same compassion, and the same, you can connect so deeply with them. And so, like all of you, I know you've been blessed with many friends, and I see that among you at Free to Be. And so I also have a lot of friends, and I didn't realize the depth of their friendship until 2 years ago. That was when my husband was very ill, and I recognized that he probably wasn't going to make it. So he was in the hospital. I was alone, and I would call every night to tell my friends and my family about the happenings of the day. And to complicate matters, we had just moved. So we had moved to Reno, Nevada. We didn't know anybody. I hardly knew my directions to get to the hospital and back. And I figured I'd be sitting alone in the hospital with my kids would come, but I didn't think too many other people would come. But I was wrong. I was very wrong. And when I sat there in the hospital, I realized that I couldn't pray. I mean, I was just so struck by all the sadness and everything that was going on. I thought, I know I should be praying, but I can't. I don't know what to say. So anyway, what happened was I started getting phone calls and texts from people. And then all of a sudden, I can't ask. I mean, I'm not one that can't ask for help. So I didn't ask anybody to come, but come they did. So they came to see Phil, and they came for me. And I want to tell you just about 3 of those friends. One of them was my best friend, Pam. I've known her since we were 2. And she knew Phil because she introduced Phil to me. So she came and she brought a bag of, I called it her Mary Poppins bag. She opened the bag and out came, and she flew, and out came a Bible, a candle, a cross, and a little book of prayers. She cleaned off my coffee table and she put those on my coffee table. And she said to me, Betty, I'm in charge now. So I said, okay, Pam, you're in charge. So she came and she said, this is our little altar. This is where we'll come at night. So every day we drove to the hospital. We spent all day with Phil. And every night she came and would sit and pray with me. And what I would do was cry and say amen. And it was so wonderful because I could see God in her. I couldn't see God by myself. I couldn't see him with Phil and I. But when she came, there he was. He was standing right beside us, and he was sitting with us. So when we went to the hospital, Pam was also one of these delightful people that could bring humor to a situation. So she would talk with Phil and kid him and talk about the days when we were younger and went places together. And Phil would look up and smile and come back with his little one-liners that he was famous for. And I realized that, yes, we could have a little humor. We can have a little laughter in all of our grief. It doesn't have to be so somber. So those were the 2 gifts that Pam brought to me. Another friend of mine came, but she didn't come in person. She came through texts and phone calls. And her name was Carolyn. And Carolyn had lost her husband 5 years prior to Phil. And I was so close to her, and I realized the pain that she was going through. So she realized the pain I was going through. And every day she would, well, she wouldn't call every day, but she would call often. And when it got to be where we knew that Phil wasn't going to make it, she texted me a prayer. And every day she texted just one phrase of the prayer. And it was a short prayer. And it came at 7 a.m. And I would look at that text. So on day 1, she wrote, "If I am to stand, let me stand bravely." And so I would say to God, "Okay, God, please let me be brave. Let me ask questions. Let me speak up." On day 2, she texted, "If I am to sit, let me sit quietly." And God knows you do a lot of sitting in the hospital. So, and I don't sit quiet, I'm up and down. So I said, "Lord, please let me sit quiet." Day 3, "If I am to lie low, help me do it patiently." Oh goodness, did I need patience. Lord, please give me patience. Day 4, "If I am to do nothing, help me to do it gallantly." Gallant? Gallant? This is in your hands, Lord. Let me stand tall, square my shoulders, and be gallant. Day 5, "Make these words more than words, and give me the spirit of your peace." Oh, Carolyn, you knew just what I needed. The prayer was a calming influence on me. It gave me a focus, and it gave me strength to be brave and patient and gallant. But Carolyn also brought a simple focus for me. I always felt like I needed to do something, but she was giving me a prayer that said, no, just be quiet, be patient, and sit quietly, and just gather your strength from that. This made me feel like it would be okay. It would be okay for me to just sit. And God and Carolyn would not let me suffer alone. They would be with me. That simple prayer became synonymous with Carolyn. And I really thank God Carolyn was there during that time. My last example is Tara. Tara is my best friend's daughter. She's about the age of my own kids. She considered us her second parents. And Tara is kind of a high-strung gal. She's on an emotional roller coaster most of the time. And when she wanted to come, I thought, oh God, no, I just can't handle that. So I tried to dissuade her, but she said, no, Betty, I'm going to get a hotel. Even if you don't want me at your house, that's fine. I want to see Phil and I want to see you. I'm going to get a hotel. So I said, okay, Tara, come. So Tara came, and God knew what I needed. God knew that Tara needed to be there, because Tara wanted to be there so she could say goodbye to Phil. Phil was her second dad. But Tara was my angel. Tara came, and Tara did everything for me, because Tara came when I heard the news that he wasn't going to make it, that there wasn't any hope that this would be it. And I just fell apart. And Tara drove me back and forth to the hospital. She washed my clothes. She did the dishes. She even, this was Christmas time, she even wrapped presents and even went shopping. I was in awe of Tara. Tara became the angel that her mother loved. And I knew that her mother was looking down and just smiling so broadly and so full of pride. And I saw God in Tara, and I was so thankful that she came. Only God and Tara knew that that's what I needed. So those are the three people that I saw. There were many more that came, many more that wrote letters and notes. And I realized one thing: And this is the important thing that I realized, that it's in my neediness that God comes, in my neediness that other people come and help. I always think I have to have everything put together, that God, that for me to ask anything, I have to have it all laid out, all put together. But I wasn't put together. I was just me, just very, very needy and very wanting love, but afraid to ask. And people saw, and people came, and they were such good friends. And I felt like that was God. God was standing there with them. God was with them. The Lord stood right with them and held my hand and helped them. So I learned that it was okay to be needy, because that's where God comes to us. But I also learned that in my neediness and in them helping me, we became closer. And there was a stronger connection there in our friendship, not just because we enjoyed each other's company, not just because we had similar interests and stuff, but because we were both needy. We were both there together. And I was able to accept help. They were able to give it. And God gave us the grace and the blessings so abundant during that time. So when a friend reaches out and lends us a hand, or a soothing word, or a warm embrace, know that God is in that embrace, that He is the word, He is the outstretched hand, the knowing smile, and the understanding nod. That's my talk. Thank you.
Betty, thank you so much. That is such a beautiful testament to friendship. And I invite anybody else, if during their meditation, since we're reading this book, if you also like to share about friends, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to meditate on. It reminds me, just a couple days ago, or within the last week, we had the celebration of Our Lady of Sorrows. And I listened to a priest's homily, and I learned a new term. He called it ministry at the foot of the cross. So that is when we are in sorrow. During that time, there is a ministry at the foot of the cross. And if you think about Mary, she was not alone at the foot of the cross. She too was surrounded by friends. So anyways, we're going to just talk about the introduction of the book today. And I really enjoyed looking for a song about friendship. That song just filled me with joy. And that song was actually a song with a purpose. Back in 1986, that song raised $3 million for the AIDS Foundation. So talk about friends. They were helping one another. And then over the weekend, I saw this online ad, and it was really cute. It was for new business owners, and the company that was advertising builds websites. But what they called the new businesses says, hey, you, makers of the future. And I thought, here we are. We are all makers of the future. So I'm going to ask, what is your future going to bring this year? What are you expecting this year from Free to Be? Are you called to be a friend to somebody new, perhaps? Are you called to be a guide? Maybe a teacher, or maybe you're called to be a healer. So Sister Joan begins this introduction with this sentence: friendship colors the very air we breathe. So our air lately has not been all that good since all the fires. There's ash in the air, there's residue, but maybe it'll make that sentence more understandable, because color adds texture and it adds depth. When it's colored, it's more noticeable. So we may even be able to feel the air sometimes. And I've often said that the air quality at Free to Be is very dense. When we walk into the hall, the air changes. It's dense with excitement and hope and love. Even here on Zoom, I can feel the air around me change a little bit. I can feel your presence. I breathe in, it's a little calmer. I feel accepted and encouraged just by the air. So this is the feeling of friendship and the feeling of trust. And Sister Joan writes, friendship binds the past, the present, and makes bearable the uncertainty of the future. Well, what could we use more than that? So I say, amen. We find comfort in one another. And I've repeated this hundreds of times. We need each other. We need each other. And I love how Sister Joan calls friendship an invisible sacrament, eternal mystery and eternal desire. So through this community of spiritual friendships, we learn about that internal desire. So, you know, you ask yourself, what is most of us? What do most of us really desire? And I know that the answers that come through spiritual direction, people want to be heard, they want to be loved, they want to be understood, and they want to be accepted. Sister Joan then writes about losing our friends when our friends die. And I know a beautiful woman who over the last few years has not only lost her husband, but she's also lost several of her very close friends. She misses them and she grieves them. She grieves for herself also. So Sister Joan writes that we can feel like a part of us also dies when our friend dies. The level of grief can be directly connected to the amount of love you shared during those years of friendship. So I truly believe that those memories live within ourselves. These friends have helped to shape us. They're woven into ourselves, creating a part of our own tapestry of who we have become. And like the song says, I'm glad I got the chance to say that I do believe I love you. So I pray that we're able to say that to our friends, especially when we know our friends will be leaving us soon. I love you. It's a beautiful message. When my father-in-law was about 85 years old, he sat me down one day and he made me make a promise that I would never stop making new friends. He had lost his closest and his last friend that year, and he was very, very lonely. And he admitted to me that he hadn't put a lot of time or energy into making new friends. So I promise to keep that vow. Friendship of all kinds are treasures in our life today. What my father-in-law needed is he needed the light from somebody else. That's what he was missing. Sister Joan writes about what a friendship is. She says, our friends hold up a lantern for us. They are our light. And this helps us grow not only personally, but it helps us grow spiritually. It's the light from each other's presence, the light from each other's experiences, stories, the light of each other's wisdom. We need that. Sister Joan also writes that love is evident through our friendships, but she says it's not the passionate kind, and I'm gonna have to disagree. I think I told the story a couple of weeks ago, but the other day, Sally Hotchkiss walked into the office. She's been furloughed since March. My heart jumped for joy when I saw her, and it took everything I had not to wrap my arms around her and hug her. I just miss her. She's a wonderful friend. So I thought that was a very passionate response. And I'm wondering if any of you, I mean, we haven't seen each other physically, but I know I see Karen Pessy in Mass and my heart starts to thump. You know, I see people in Mass now that I haven't seen for a while. I think that's a very passionate response. There's a last line of one of her paragraphs that says, friendship extends us into places we have not gone before and that we cannot go alone. And who wants to go alone? Not me. Again, we need each other. Sister Joan then begins talking about friends as connections and friends in a political dimension. So I'm going to ask us all to make a promise as we enter this election season. It's a place I'd like us not to go. I'd like us to be a politically free zone. That way we can continue to lift one another up. So we're going to ask for a politically free zone. Sister Joan continues writing about the breakdown of friendships and what was supposed to be the theology of friendship. She firmly writes about how friendships were diminished by famine, plague, oppression, negative asceticism. The God of love lost out to what she called God the judge. And she writes about the oppression of women into convents, castles, and kitchens. And then she says, until now, now is our time. She says there's a new awareness of who we are as women. We've discovered the places of talk, of telling our stories and the development of communities. We've discovered the healing power of telling each other stories. So she writes this book to introduce us to some of the women who have been our guides since the beginning, the women who have been our light. So let's see how we can become light for one another. And I'm going to finish with a quote that I found last weekend because it's a beautiful way to think of us as a community. It talks about spiritual companions, and it says, a spiritual companion like Jesus journeys with another in the process of discovering, appreciating, and responding to the presence of the invitation of God, in the hope that we can live our lives with a heightened awareness of love and a deeper commitment to love. Basically, a deeper commitment to one another. So now I'm just going to review this breakout group situation. I said it a little bit in the beginning, but if you weren't here, it is not a perfected art. I have spent a lot of time putting us into breakout groups today manually on the system, and supposedly when I hit a magic button, it's supposed to happen. Over the weekend, I was with another group, but there was only 18 of us. The woman that did that is an expert. She hit the button and it did not work. So if I hit that button and it does not work, we're going to go to random groups again. And I apologize. It's just been a huge dilemma. So if it works, hallelujah. If it works and you weren't here last week and you're not in a group, I will manually move you to a group. If it doesn't work, we're going to do what we did last week. We'll do some smaller groups. And then as far as group sharing, I just wanted to go over that real quick. Faith sharing rules. So a few Sundays ago, we heard from the letter of Paul as he wrote to the Corinthians, and he says, knowledge puffs us up, love lifts us up. So our goal here is not to teach each other, but to lift each other up. So just a few reminders. We are creating a sacred space for one another. Faith sharing is God-centered. We enter into a gentle and sacred presence with God and others in mutual reverence and love. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, God is present. We share from our experience. We share from reflective faith stories of our lives. We speak of our experience, our joys, our struggles, our hopes, our hurts. We do not preach. We do not teach. We do not tell other people what they should think or how they should feel. We listen from our heart. We listen to the presence of God in others, grateful for their particular expression of God in another's experience. We listen with deep sensitivity and acceptance, and we receive this as gift. We refrain from offering advice. Faith sharing really is a time of listening and receiving. Faith sharing is confidential. What is shared in the Free to Be group does not go from group to group, does not leave the Free to Be arena. This is the place of trust where people do not come to have their news spread. So faith sharing is very confidential. And lastly, sharing is invitational. Everybody is invited to share, but some people may not quite be ready to share. So it is not mandatory that you share. But again, listen with your heart. There is no pressure here to share. I did send the questions via email in the link, in the invitation link this week. So you should have the questions. Hopefully somebody in each group does. Now let's just say a little prayer over the groups. I'm going to try and see if it works. So hopefully you'll all go to a group. I'll be right back at you if you don't. Okay, you know what, guys? I apologize. This is exactly what happened this is exactly what happened on Saturday. Only about half the people went into a group. So until we figure this out, we're going to do random groups. Would you, I invite everybody to unmute themselves right now.
That didn't work.
No, that's exactly what happened Saturday. Half the people went, but it takes a long time to manually move everybody over. So
No.
what I'd like to do today is, do you guys want to do like we did last week? Would you like to do, we have 4 questions. Would you like to do 4 small groups?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
That's what I'm going to do then. So let me break us into groups again. And let's see.
Oops.
So our first question.
be in his group.
Our first question, we are called to be makers of the future. What will your future hold this year? Are you called to be a friend to someone new? Are you called to be a teacher, a healer? What are your expectations? So that is what we're going to share, and I will give you about 10 minutes. Let's see if I can, come on, give me an option here.
Oh dear. Whoops. Somebody. Hello?
Okay, here we go, ladies. I'll give you 10 minutes for that first question.
Can anybody see me? This is Linda
Yes.
Bourne.
Yes,
And
I can see you.
I can't see anybody anymore. Looks like I was pushed off.
Oh,
I'm gonna see if I can rejoin. Yeah,
I can see you and hear you, Linda. This is Joan.
okay. Let me see if I can rejoin. Okay, let's see.
Pat, did you get a message to move to a breakout room? Oh, can you unmute yourself? Oh, there she goes.
No, they are awesome. They are so great. I have so many that I know.